if you're the parent of a child who is relentlessly bullied at school, many would get their principals, superintendents, and even school boards involved.
You know, there's some frustrated parents who have decided to take the matter even further with civil lawsuits. In fact, an Ancaster couple is suing the Hamilton-Wentworth Catholic District School Board for $900,000 after their 14-year-old son was allegedly beaten up by schoolyard bullies several times. The couple claims the school didn't do enough to keep him safe. The school board says they didn't even know some of the incidents took place.
To talk more about this, we're joined by former superintendent and principal Greg Anderson, who's also the author of Bullies Stop Now. And we also have a personal injury lawyer, Robert Finley, who's with us today. And I'm going to start with you, Robert. Obviously, it's a pretty scary prospect. Suing a school board, is it as hard as it sounds like it would be?
I think suing the school board on a bullying case would be extremely difficult. You certainly want to make sure that it was that you had your facts straight, and I think a lot of it's going to be facts-driven, and there'd have to be, I would assume, a history.
Greg, as a former superintendent, do you understand why parents would want to sue the school board in this case here? They feel they're left with no other option. Is this something that has come up a lot where they're frustrated, their child isn't being treated a certain way, the authorities aren't doing anything about it, and now their last resort is to sue?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen parents absolutely furious. I've seen them in the office, I've seen them in schools. I think a critical thing for parents to realize before they want to look at the expense of trying to do a lawsuit, know the food chain, know how to work up and how quickly to move up. First of all, the principal, that's the first person you should talk to. If you do not get success and some kind of help from that person, go to the school superintendent. If the school superintendent doesn't provide the help you figure you should get, I would go directly to the chair of the district school board. And I'll tell you why. The chair of the district school board is a politician. They do not want phone calls from angry constituents. And I think right off the bat, you've upped it very quickly. That saves you a whole lot of money and it'll get you the same results.
Robert, at what point would you recommend that your client sue the school board? You know, what do you like I've spoken to everybody and they've, the principal says they're trying, I'm not happy. You know, what kind of, as you said, you have to get your ducks in a row. What would I need to have in a row in order to have a successful lawsuit?
Well, Greg is absolutely right about the fact that you've got to find somebody that's going to be responsible and accountable. And I'm sure that Greg is pretty familiar with the changes to the Education Act. Bill 13 was implemented this summer. And prior to the implementation of Bill 13, it was a little hard to understand exactly what the school's responsibilities were with respect to supervision. The case that gave us guidance was a Supreme Court of Canada decision called Myers versus Peel County Board, which just had a very general standard of supervision, which was that of a reasonably careful parent. And what they've done now is they have given principals greater authority beyond just simple supervision. They can set policies, they can discipline, I think expel students, and certainly if a board is paying attention, there shouldn't be a problem, but if they're not, you want it documented, you want dates and times and histories and people you spoke to, and you'd have to have that as you move up the food chain, and there'd have to be almost, the standard in both the States and in Canada is almost a willful blindness, and a board would almost have to deliberately ignore all of this to create a situation where there would be a legitimate lawsuit that could succeed.
Can I just ask you one more thing on that note, Robert? So I'm talking about my child. I'm talking about violence and my child. So how much time do I have to commit to playing through the whole process and watching nothing happen before I come to you?
There's a case called Davis versus Monroe County, which is the seminal Supreme Court of the United States decision. And in that particular case, the parent didn't have a whole lot of it wasn't like there were daily episodes, but there was a history over 3 or 4 months where the board totally ignored the parent's request. In fact, the board was asked to take this student who was being sexually harassed and just change her place in the classroom, and they refused to do that. So that gives you an idea of how deliberate the avoidance of the school board would have to be. I think in this particular, if you read the case, it's a decision of Justice Connor, and there were, I'm going to say, less than 10 episodes involving this harasser. And the courts upheld that they had a legitimate claim.
Wow. Greg, how much does money enter into this situation? I mean, a lot of times, I I guess that's the only language that school boards will listen to. They'll sit up and make some changes perhaps if the money is there. Do you think money has anything to do with this particular case here?
No, I don't think so. I think what you're really looking at is an angry parent who's trying to protect their child. Your child is the most important thing too, and you want them to be safe at school. And if I could make one slight correction, with all due respect to the other guest, principals have the authority to suspend in the province of Ontario up to 20 days. Anything further than that, an expulsion has to go to a committee of the board. So that would be a decision made, not by the principal. And for those parents out there who are listening to this right now, who are really frustrated, don't know what to do, I'll be very blunt. My website, which is bulliestopnow.ca, I give all kinds of step-by-step pointers on how to deal with school officials, because a lot of parents, they just don't know. So the issue, Mark, about money, I think parents are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They want their child to be safe at school, and they want their child to come home happy.
And Robert, your recommendation is make a note of everything. If there's a paper trail, if there's times, incidents, witnesses, whatever it is, you need that. You need to be armed with that if you want to take on the school board.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, and Greg, I just want to ask you something. As a parent, I always worry, how much do I want to piss off the principal? How much do I want to piss off the superintendent? Because you know what, my kids are going to be spending several years there. Do you find that in your experience, parents just sort of want to tiptoe around the authorities because they don't want their kids to have a hard time in the future?
Both extremes. I've seen both. I've seen ones that don't care less what they do, and they don't care how angry they make people, and other ones that are feeling that way. But I think for parents that are listening to this right now, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
Yeah.
A parent that really is adamant and won't go away is going to get some kind of support and help. And again, start with the principal. If you're not happy with the principal, go to the school superintendent. If you don't think the school superintendent helped you, I go to the chair of the district school board. And then you'll find that things are starting to happen.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully
Great.
it all ends at the principal's office. That's Greg Anderson. He's a former principal and superintendent,
Thanks.
also the author of Bully Stop Now. And I also want to say thank you to Robert Finley, who's a personal injury lawyer. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.